Hey there peeps, how's it going? Cred here, back with some new items and concepts for modding. At the moment I'm focusing on useful items that will help build up camps and communities. In this video we're looking into how storage containers could be utilised for a camp, but also how they could be interacted with when encountered. I've heard of a few players mention this as an idea, and I think this would be something amazing to implement as an item for base building or to just enhance your personal space in the community.
Hello. I'm Vlad. Nice to meet you.
Here's the pitch.
When it comes to building bases in camps, I reckon the more interactive items for camping that are put in, the more active and involved and realistic your camp could become. This is great for people who want to roleplay, but even great for people who just want a straight up PvP. A basic camp is still great for where you can assemble your unit or clan, or can sort out or store your gear. Among the items brought in, there's one I reckon that could be collected and used by most. This is the storage case. Now, there's loads of different types of storage cases that could be found and used, but I reckon one of the best would be your typical military transport case. These are your general military styled waterproof plastic cases. Now, I know that a lot of these are actually shorter in design, but I've made my version a bit longer, so you can fit in weapons and take weapons in and out without having to collapse your weapon or take them apart, so you can get them instantly in and out of the case with ease. So apart from storing bits of gear, it makes a fantastic weapons case, and I think this is something which is really needed because weapons are probably one of the most valuable commodities in DayZ at the moment. The places you could find these cases are obviously located at the military sites. Here's the model in the inspect window. It looks a bit worn out and weathered. I think I've gone a bit overboard with the surface scratches, as it is the apocalypse, so even in its pristine state, it's a bit dragged out and it's like it's been dragged through the war and used by other forces before you encountered it. It can also come in other colours as well, such as grey, brown, browny kind of reddy. I'd say a bit more reddy than brown, I'd say. But yeah, sort of in between the brown and red. That's a kind of a really good colour, I reckon. Or if you really want to see it as a dark brown, I can bring out a dark brown as well, no problem. And a mid-tone green. Also, the box has modelled interior with it as well, so if you wanted to open it in some kind of an animation or to signify that the box is open, you can do so as well. In real life, this case design would be best carried by two people, and I think it's too large to be carried in a backpack kind of fashion, so I'm thinking this could be carried the same as a civilian tent is in game. Some of you are probably thinking, well, I'm not carrying that across the map, and I totally understand where you're coming from, but keep in mind, once more vehicles are implemented, along with carrying capacities, fingers crossed for that, then we'll be using vehicles for collecting more larger items, plus there's also possibilities of roof racks as well. So once you get a storage case or box, you'll need to lock it. Now this next item could be used for loads of different things from cases to doors. This is the combination padlock. I reckon a combination padlock would work best in survival and sim games. Keyed padlocks would be way too complicating, I reckon, as characters are reset and the keys are lost and stolen easily. It's also loads more practical, as you can make your own combination and share it out with others, or even send it through TeamSpeak than having to mess around with keys and take them to people. And also the keys would take up space as well if you had like sets of boxes or sets of locks. So it's a lot more practical, I reckon, just to have the keys in your head. To set the numbers, the padlock would need to be unlocked first. Now from here, I think there are two ways you can interact with it to set the combination. Either taking it into your hands and the option will come up which you click on, and that will bring you up to a table to input your code, and once it's set the table will go back to blank. Or it's done totally in game, kind of like when you're using the compass. You could hold it up in first person and actually rotate the numbers with your hand. Of course this would look good, but as you have to confront padlocks that are locked on different positions and on different heights, it would take considerably more work for you to get viewpoints and different angles for your character. I have no doubt it'd also take a lot of programming to create a 4-digit personalised lock system, but I really think that developing secure storage would be well worth it, either from devs or the modders. Now this is just speculation, but here are my reasons why containers are important. At the moment with camps, tents are so open that anyone in the group can take from each other. Now I'm sure most of you don't mind sharing loot, but when hoarding comes more into play and numbers grow in a group, I guarantee you're going to have more problems where things go missing in the camp. Either someone has taken them by mistake, or you have an opportunist in your midst. So items that can be locked in a box in your personal space will lower the chance of an incident. It will also add some defense against raiders as well. And this brings me to the next point. If your base or camp gets raided and they get through your defences, then the raiders have to break into the cases to get the loot. This sounds simple, but if you have 20 cases to break through, then it's going to take some time. Time the raiders don't have, as the occupants could be logging back on to catch them in the act. I think what also would be cool would be bringing a truck into it, and that way you can back it into the camp and then throw as many cases as you possibly could in the back, and then get off like it was a proper heist. But apart from bringing some more security, it'd be great to have different cases and boxes so you can keep things organised within your base. Now, I think this point is quite amusing, because sometimes I come across dead characters and take a look to see if there's anything I can salvage or anything I can take. As you do, of course. Some people arrange their items in pocket slots pretty randomly and messy, but sometimes I come across others who are neat and organised and have everything arranged on them in chronological order. Everything will be stacked in sets and really neat. Or I come across bodies that hold sets of protective cases, and in each case there seems to be matching gear or equipment, which I think is pretty cool. So people out there are really organised, and I love that kind of stuff. So when it comes to storage cases, the same thing could translate over really well on a base scale. You could have certain size boxes that hold certain equipment and sets of things. Those cases can be stacked in their designated areas to supply for groups' garages, ammo dumps, larder, and so on and so forth. Just to touch back on looting cases, either on a base or on a site, tools that you could use like handsaws, or perhaps bringing in a bolt cutter to cut off locks would be great here. Or if you wanted to break into a case instead, the crowbar could be used. Of course, other tools could be used here, such as the axes and the sledgehammers, but with them being more heavier tools, you could risk ruining the contents along with the box. So I said before, it should take some time to break into the case, as it should be a challenge. I reckon what would work well would be for breaking into a case through repeated attempts to take it down the damage table. Then only when the case and the lock are ruined, you can access it and take the contents. But looking further afield than just DayZ, you've got games like Altis Life, Identity, and others getting developed, so they could benefit from storage boxes and even the Padlock even more so. Take for example, you're a criminal and a cop is checking some garages of yours after reports of suspicious activity. The cop is like, well, I don't have a warrant, but I'll just have a peek in here. Oh look, I just found your meth lab. Well, that's justified my actions. Oh goody, it's prison time for you. But if you're able to padlock your doors, they'll have to do their job and get a warrant, and maybe there's not any probable cause at all, so they don't bother. That's how it would work in theory anyway, but it's really down to the game and the gamer's rules. And I think that's it, guys. I think I've covered everything more or less. But before I go, the padlock here needs a company name and logo printed on the side. If you're interested, post me a name, a fictional company name which has something to do with locks and padlocking, etc. And leave that in the comment box and I'll select the best one to finish it off. As usual, I'll put the models up on P3D if you want to take a look for yourself. The links are below. And that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. Big up to all my fans out there. You guys have been totally spot on. And I'll be back with something new as soon as I can. This has been Credit Dread. Take care out there, guys. All the best.